Hello and welcome to this week's Scaffold podcast. Today I'm lucky enough to be joined by Edd King. Is it Ed or Edward?
Ed, fine,
Ed,
yeah.
Ed with two D's, I see. So Ed is a Taunton boy, Somerset, left school and drifted into a job with Tesco's originally, if I'm correct. Worked there for about 15 years. And then at some point during the end of that 15-year period, he decided he wanted to change his career path. And now he's a surveyor with home surveying, correct?
Yes, right, yeah.
Lovely to have you, Ed.
Thank you very
So
much.
let's start from the beginning. What motivated you to move from being was it a supermarket delivery driver, I believe, to
Yeah,
pursuing a career in surveying?
yeah. There's not really any jobs in Tesco I didn't do. I did checkouts, I did shop floor, I did nights, I did stocking up shelves, the old classic. Drifted into the home shopping side of things, so picking the orders. And then the longest period I was the delivery driver, so going around all Devon, Dorset, Somerset, based out the Seaton store, so quite a big patch. And yeah, just drifting in my life basically after school. What motivated me was I always had a bit of an interest in property, which is always a good starting point for being a surveyor. But as often in these great stories, one fateful night at a pub with my friend, my lifelong friend who works as a surveyor and valuer and e-serve, pulled me down the pub one evening and it's like a 17th century building or whatever, and we're just sitting outside having a pint and pointing out things on the wall and saying, "What's that over there? What's that X and a metal X on the wall? What could that be? What could that be causing?" And we went from there just a whole evening, sort of probing me, impressing me, and then by the end of it, he's like, "You know what? You've pretty analytical mind. You should maybe look at being a surveyor." And I was like, "Well, it's something." And yeah, just sort of guessing defects and guessing what could be, and just going from there. And from then on, really, just every time I was out delivering houses, I was looking at a crack or looking at something going, I wonder what that is. And it started the journey. And then £15,000 later and 3 years later, after SAVA course, here I am practicing surveyor.
No, it's amazing the life changing decisions you can make after a couple of Guinnesses, or in my case, WKD Blue. But so, what were some of the biggest challenges you faced in making such a significant career change, and how did you overcome them? Because, like you say, it's not like you've kind of gone from myself. I had a bit of a significant when I went from being a rugby player to a lettings agent and property manager. But then I decided to go. It was a natural progression for me to progress to a surveyor,
Yeah.
because it was kind of a step up. But moving from what you were possibly doing to a surveyor, it's not a natural transition. So, what were some of the significant hurdles you had to kind of overcome?
Yeah, that's a good question because I was a bit of an academical in school. I wasn't very good at it, but I liked the geography, the psychology stuff. So I had absolutely no construction knowledge. I knew what a wall was, I knew what a gutter was, basic maintenance things. But I guess that was my biggest challenge, starting from absolute ground zero. The second I got those books sent to me from Sava, there I was flicking through the pages, trying to get ahead of the curve and reading, knowing full well I had to start from very scratch, the very bottom, and work my way up. So I was lucky enough to have several surveyors around here. One especially I want to shout out as well. A chap called Paul Weil took me out many, 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 many inspections like every week, and I learnt a lot through him and just doing the job, doing the job, doing the job, and firing him questions. So the biggest challenge is absolutely the knowledge because I had none. I had none. I still don't know anything, but at least I'm educated, not know anything now. I do know a few things. Yeah.
I like that disclaimer in case the bosses are watching.
Disclaimer.
No, I mean sometimes a blank canvas is. I mean that in a polite way. Sorry, a blank canvas.
No.
It's a good place to start because you don't necessarily have any preconceived ideas, or you're not kind of already starting down the wrong path. So when you've got that kind of fresh start, I had it when I used to be a professional rugby player, and after when I was about 32, my career dramatically changed, and I had to get what I would call a real job. So yeah, I think it's probably more of definitely a hurdle, obviously, because you're the one that had to go through the learning, but also it could be seen as a kind of a strength in regards to helping you with that career change.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I like that.
Interesting question for you then. Skills transfer. Were there any skills or experiences that you had at a time as a kind of delivery driver that helped you in your new role as a surveyor? So I've already got one for you that
Oh,
I
yes.
based on our conversation already. But I'll let you answer the question first and see if you get the one that I'm thinking of.
We'll have to go with that award-winning smile and that customer's twinkle in the eye sort of thing. Yeah, yeah, Mr. Rodri, we're doing fine. I can talk to people. I can talk. I've been used to going to people's houses for 8 years of being as a delivery driver, whilst not exactly transferable in the fact of unloading shopping as opposed to doing a survey. I don't really have the awkwardness of being at a house with someone whilst I'm doing a survey on it. I can talk to my client almost as an equal, even though like they're talking to a professional. And I think that makes it really easy to talk to me. That's my main transferable skill, really. I have done all sorts with data handling and everything you could put in and shoehorn in there, but the main one has got to be customer service and easygoing personality, really. The
And
main one.
that's such an underrated skill, particularly, I mean, you need to have these, pre and post inspection phone calls, and to be able to speak to a client in a way that they can understand, not full of jargon, and outline, the fundamental issues and answer their questions on a level that they can kind of understand. And then it's not belittling the clients and stuff, but obviously they're employing a professional, a specialist to talk them through these areas and to be able to have that, ability to have a conversation, which, I used to be a bit of an introvert and I always found it quite awkward speaking to people. Look at me, I'm hosting podcasts, bit of weird. What the one I was thinking of wasn't actually that one, or despite your award-winning smile, it was the traveling. So as a surveyor, what kind of patch do you cover with your current company or your company? Like, is it a small patch, or is there a little bit of driving involved and travel and stuff like that? Because it draws some people to the industry and it pushes other people away, having to, that constant time on the road.
Yeah, no, a lot of the patch I do at the minute, and I worked out with the boss, is kind of the same areas to do for delivering. So I was based in the Seaton store, which is right on the coast, Lime Bay, and up from there was the attached patch for delivery. A lot of that, actually all of that, I've absorbed now with my current patch, and I do Exeter, Taunton, Bridgewater, Dorchester. So a big triangle around Taunton, as it were. Driving is not a problem. I just put a good audiobook on in the car, and pay attention to the roads. It's fine. Um,
I love how you get the disclaimers in here. Pay attention to the road. Don't play with my phone. Always
just
legal.
you
Good.
never know who's listening, do you? So no, no, yeah. I mean, if I was doing a 10-hour shift in the vans, doing multi-drop deliveries, I do 100 plus miles a day, 140 miles a day. Granted, it wasn't on my fuel bill, but best if I have to do 100 miles to a survey, don't ever have to, never. But I don't mind it. It's not a problem. And I know a lot of the back roads, a lot of the side roads, and all that too, which helps.
Yeah, no, but they say with the nature of the, I mean, where I live, I'm fairly when I do my surveys. I mean, I live in Penzance, so where my house is, if I go a mile south, 10 miles west, or 3 miles north, I'm in the sea. So my patch is very much a 70, 80 mile straight road up towards civilization.
Oh,
And if I wasn't happy and comfortable doing, a bit of driving, then the profession wouldn't be for me. So, that, I mean, you can call it a skill or not, but it's a lifestyle choice, or just being able to and happy to do it, and also being able to do a bit of a drive and maintain that concentration because, sometimes
yeah.
people don't. So,
I mean, your office on your wheels, isn't it? So, yeah,
exactly. But you're never on your phone when you drive.
of course not.
Exactly. So education and training, you talk about you went on the SAVA course. So obviously for the people that might be considering going on SAVA or the people currently on SAVA, because obviously I'll touch on this in a minute as well. I know that you were the founding member of quite a high profile SAVA learning group now. But what did you need to become? How did you go through that training, and also how did you balance studying with your actual job at the time as well? How was everything in that regard?
Yeah, I mean, the big disclaimer, not disclaimer, but the big warning to anyone looking about SAVA is it is a huge time commitment. You look on a bit of paper that says you must allocate 10 to 20 hours per week. You think, oh, that's pretty easy. But if you have a full-time job or family or any other social commitments, it adds up so quickly. You lose your weekends, you lose a lot of your free time, and it is the absolute killer. Um, because not everyone that goes on a SAVA course will complete it, and it's accepted. It is a massive time investment. So that is the biggest time. That is the biggest thing. I was fortunate, and I am still, or unfortunate. I have no wife, no family here. I've got my family, mum and dad, and all that. My nephew, but at the end of the day, when I come home from work, my time is my time. Um, but it's just it's trying to balance it with work. Like I always say to people who ask about tips that, if you've got an episode of Friends, you can give up, get an hour extra to do a bit of studying, or if you're a bit behind, maybe you can give up Saturday, all of Saturday and catch up, or if you've even get up half an hour before work and do a little bit of photo organizing when you're in your assessment stage, for example, just something, just you have to keep chipping, and you have to get that up for 2 to 3 years on your course. You'll fall behind otherwise, and you will drop out or drop back and get really far behind. So balancing with work is difficult, but towards the end of my time with Tesco, I actually stopped being a delivery driver and stayed in the store doing the home shopping. So you come to me to pick it up. Don't tell any of the bosses here, but they would know anyway, the ex-bosses, that I did do a lot of my course whilst I was waiting for customers. At my desk, had a little book in front of me or something blocking my phone or my study material. So I was really fortunate, and I hold my hand up. I was really fortunate to be able to work on my diploma whilst being at work. Not everyone can, not everyone should. But very low attention span job, very, very unimportant job, just kind of left to it, really. Yeah, SAVA is difficult to do, but it is for those who don't want to go through a long degree in university. I couldn't do a university degree now. I've got the attention span for it, but a vocational diploma is a good way to look into the profession. But I'll just say to anybody again, really think about if you can afford the time because it is brutal. It can be brutal.
Yeah, I mean, and there are loads of pathways to becoming a surveyor. I went down the APC one, but again, I was fortunate because part of my training, I had a chartered surveyor that said, I'll be your mentor. You come work for me. We'll get you doing other stuff away from the surveying, obviously, to be a fee earner, but allowed me time to kind of train in the job. So, there's SAVA as a commitment, but from what I understand, I didn't go down the SAVA route, obviously, as I just explained, but it does prepare you for life as a surveyor and leads me from my experience and past conversations anyhow. But that kind of leads nicely on to my next question. Now you're a surveyor. Is it everything you thought it would be? Is it everything you imagined it? Is it what you want it to be? Are you happy you made that kind of switch? And obviously, even if you're happy with making a switch, are you content in what you do now? And what's the next step?
What's the next step? Ooh, well,
I asked you about 9 questions there, didn't I? I let you
I'll try and
answer
work
this
backwards.
one.
Next step is just to sort of continue learning, and I'm doing level twos at the minute. I will start in level three training eventually, but get comfortable level two, sort of do them, getting a really good routine. My personal goal is I would like to be able to eventually survey the old farmhouses you get around this area, the 1500 farmhouse or whatever. It's a long run goal. I love thatched cottages. Would like to live in one day if I can afford it. I love to survey them. But immediate goal is to be able to work on older properties, start going back in time, basically. I've forgotten the rest of your questions now.
So
Right.
are you happy with the decision you made? And is it everything you wanted it to be?
Yes. It's also an odd transition going from your last case study in SAVA to suddenly practicing, where you're like doing a case study for fun to your assessor who's picking your pieces, and suddenly you're doing it for someone live who's relying on your advice to buy a house, the biggest purchase of their life. That was a bit of a wow moment, and I do get that still when I talk to them after the survey and say, Mr. Smith, so and so, and defects, and they say thank you very much, or oh, it's a pity, or maybe we'll go somewhere else. It's that sort of moment that helping someone is I like doing that. I like that them coming to me and saying thank you very much for that survey or you saved me a fortune. I like that and that makes me happy. Do I regret doing it? Nope, not at all. Anything better than Tesco, even if people do moan about how the balls are in the back of our heads all the time, surveyors, high claims and that, I still like doing it. I still enjoy doing it. I still get up in the morning and think, oh, I'm going to find at this property today. It's enjoyable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's good. I mean, I say with you talk about claims and stuff, but it's a cliche, isn't it? With high risk comes high reward. You have a surveying is it's a fairly well paid industry, but if you have something that's fairly well paid, there needs to be some sort of consequence. But if you go into it sufficiently trained, sufficiently knowledgeable, and confident in your subject matter, then it massively minimizes that kind of risk.
Yes, and,
Um,
and SAVA does train you to quite a high level. Like by the time you come out of assessment, you've had 12 case studies assessed by someone signed off. Maybe someone from ABB have looked at them as well, so you've had a second pair of eyes. So you are brought up to quite a high level, and there are some good surveyors on the course as well.
Hmm. So obviously, I mean, needless plug. Obviously, Scaffold was isn't a survey writing solution as such, and we do offer free kind of accounts to SAVA to help with that training. It's not by, there is obviously some alternative kind of getting our name out there and brand recognition, but there is just a pure element of trying to help people through. It's not necessarily a cheat. It's not necessarily saying you should use us, but it's part of the industry now is these surveying kind of solutions as to help you do your compliance, how you write surveys and stuff. So I think it's, from my point of view, whether you use any kind of software to help with your survey writing, I think it's important to understand the pros and cons of that. Done a couple of podcasts with people in the past, and obviously everyone uses different. There's plenty of options available to you. But from your perspective, from the SAVA, you started the WhatsApp kind of group. So did you want to tell us a little bit about, firstly, what it is, how it started, and where it is now, and are you still involved in it?
Yeah, so towards the end of my last case study, December 2023, I can't claim that I started the group. I joined it when I was one of the first ones there, but one of the admins called Ovace Naveed posted on the Student Surveyor group, which was called back then Nina Young's group on Facebook, asking if any students want to come and exchange ideas in the Google Meet. And I used to post a bit on the Facebook group, just trying to help students who are a bit further behind. And I said, yeah, sure, go along. I think that about 8 of us in that first meeting, Lee Jones, the other admin, Ovace, a few other members, myself, and we spent like an hour just chatting through various points of assessment. They were at sort of varying levels of the course. I was right at the end, Lee was in the middle, Ovace and a few others were at the very start. And we just sort of did a bit of a presentation, shared some experience with feedback forms. Some of them were coming into assessment, some were at the end of assessment, and just talking about it. That was the first meeting, went really well. And he posted again on Facebook asking if another meetup next week. I thought, yeah, why not? Same group again. But it kind of really went from there. It's like we made a WhatsApp group, all 8 of us, and talked about maybe can we do another session about this or whatever, talk about chimneys, for example. And it kind of really snowballed from there. Like I like doing a bit of presentations and a bit of putting together a Google document and talking about things and helping people. So I did a bit of work for each of those sessions, and then it seemed to go down really well. So we sort of started meeting more often. A few people replied to the comments a couple of weeks after the initial post saying, "Could I join the group?" And it went from there. We sort of hijacked Nina's group for a little bit and kept posting, saying, "Anybody want to join the group?" Started on LinkedIn as well, and it kind of ballooned. There's about 311 members in that WhatsApp group now. The sort of unofficial SAVA Study Group. We've nicknamed it. Just a very, it's a very casual, very informal chat. So imagine like at the Facebook groups you get out there, but it's like dedicated to just SAVA students. So you're asking what you might think is a dumb question about assessment, maybe a certain case study, or my assessor's asking this, I don't quite understand, but I don't want to email him. Anything assessment based, anything SAVA based, but it covers the whole diploma, so the learning phase, your very first session to your last case study. And a number of surveyors in there in that chat have passed and are still in the group and do contribute. So as time goes on, the proportion of people who have gone from students to surveyors is moving towards surveyors. But it's been really one of my proudest sort of things I've ever done. Like I don't claim to be the owner or the founder of it, but I contribute the most to it. I do a lot of documents. I host a Google Drive with all presentations on it. And we do regular weekly sessions, time permitting, live sessions on Google Meet where we talk about a topic. So we might do meta statement writing, which is your biggest, most annoying document in SAVA. Every case study has a meta statement where you say two times 2 is 4, but your meta statement, you explain why it is 4. You do all the explaining to your assessor so they can see you're working out how you got to a defect. So we talk about how you might report on a crack, for example, using BRE Digest, or talk about I ruled out subsidence because XYZ. We do a bit of level 2 report writing basic sessions, so not masterclasses on how to do a level 2 report, just the format you need for the case study. So, using SAVA's layout. And that one's a very interactive session. So we'll have a shared Google document where students will come on and I'll sort of bully them into writing and doing the work for me. and then say, yeah, looks good. Yeah, just tweak that a little bit. And it looks very rough and around the edges, but that's what it is. That is the format you use. Very well done, everybody, using live pictures and everything. What we don't do is we don't teach, because that's SAVA's job and I'm not a teacher. Again, might be a disclaimer, but I don't know everything, but what I like doing is trying to sort of point you in the right direction, rather than saying it's shrinkage or it's subsidence. Get you to work it out yourself. Generally, those in the chat do that as well. We might say we think it's this, but we don't teach. Basically, we sort of coach you in the right direction. And yeah, so I have to thank surveyors who've given up their time to come on and do sessions as well. People often will say, "Can I do a session on something?" for example. But overall, it's just a very friendly and safe space for students to come along and chat. And there's a lot of knowledge in there. There's builders and tradies and bricklayers and all sorts in there, estate agents. It's a really wide batch, and I'm really proud of it and how it's become.
No, it sounds awesome, and I mean, I'm in a couple of surveying WhatsApp groups where people contribute. It's similar but different. It's obviously not a learning environment, but it's an assistance environment whereby someone might see something and it might, in everything, survey, you can't know everything off the top of your head. So sometimes you'll see something and you might need someone to point you in the right direction, or
Yeah,
tell you to try reading this, and it's all part of that learning experience and the journey as a surveyor. And I mean, fair play to you. It sounds awesome to be able to have that. Someone start a course and then already have the knowledge, not necessarily the knowledge of this crack is this and this is that, but of the process.
yes.
Because you're enrolling on a 3-year, 2-year, 3-year course. That's daunting in itself. And if you get a little bit of hindsight into what's around the corner, honestly, that would for me, that would settle me down and just get me focused on the next step and the next step, and not get all anxious about what's going to happen here. So,
Yeah,
Matt, I can only say well done. And I know obviously you're not one of the founding member as such, and it's not yours, but clearly you've had a massive contribution to make it what it is from what it was. So yeah, big raps to you.
yeah, it's also quite a nice, inspiring space as well. Like, people will see so and so has completed another case study as a round of applause, the thumbs
Yeah.
up and all that, and it's a bit of motivation. And it's what I would have liked there to have been when I was doing it. Like, your very first case study, you've got so many documents to put together, and how do I talk about this? It's just, as you say, it's daunting. Just having a bit of try it that way, see how you get on,
Bit
and
of
it
peer
helps.
support
Yeah,
rather than someone above talking, not talking down to you, but a teacher. You set a teacher at a higher level because they're transferring their knowledge to you. But it's nice to also have that kind of guidance, but also sometimes it's not guidance, sometimes it's your reassurance from people on your level, just saying, yeah, that's right, or I reckon you're on the right path there, or
yeah, yeah, yeah.
have you tried this? That kind of thing. Reassurance is just as important as guidance.
And if I can reassure everybody, if I can get to being a surveyor from working in Tesco with no construction knowledge, and I'm sure you can as well. That's the
Well,
customer.
I'm a
That's the
surveyor and I
sort
used to be a professional rugby player where I used to slam my head into someone else's head. So,
yeah,
I
yeah.
feel you. So final question then. Advice for others. For anyone currently in a job, supermarket delivery, Tesco's or Sainsbury's, because we've got a really nice Sainsbury's down here, or any kind of job outside the industry, and they're considering a career shift in surveying, what advice would you give them? Where should they start, and what should they expect?
Ooh, good one. Where should they
I'm full of good
start?
questions. I spent hours
Yeah.
on. Is that right?
I've spent hours thinking about the answer, I think. Um, if they're going to go with the SAVA course, that's the most accessible way into surveying. Do your research. Even plan out if you can afford the time. Again, like I said earlier, it's the biggest killer and the biggest cause of dropouts, I would imagine. There is a massive upfront cost, but the time is what kills you. So if you can budget in time every week, if you can budget in 10 to 15 hours every week, brilliant. Having an interest in properties helps. It's not essential, but you got to get up in the morning, crawl through loft spaces with spiders and dead rats and fun things like that. So never bothered me, country boy I is, so I can do all that, the mud and everything. It isn't a job where you're going to be sat in the office with a blazer on, nice heating and feet warmer and everything on. You're going to be going out in the cold and the snow, and doing all that, stabbing yourself with a protometer, which I keep
We've
doing
all done that.
still.
We've
Yes.
all done that.
No, it's as with the job, you need to be very organized and planned. I would plan out and think about everything you can. Like, post on LinkedIn, ask surveyors, even shadow someone before you maybe commit the commitment, see if it's going to be for you, see if you can spend 3 hours on site with someone watching, breathing down your neck. Um, yeah, it's just really think about it. It's a rewarding profession. You get that phone call at the end saying, thank you very much for that survey. Or you found a really unique defect and you sit down and spend an hour thinking about it and it finally clicks and you go, that makes sense. That bit of that reward, that bit of dopamine for getting something right. But there are those days where you're pulling your hair up because something doesn't make sense or you've not seen something before, or some tradesperson, there are bad ones out there, has done something you're like, why? And why do I have to report on this now? Um, highs and lows, highs and lows. Yeah. Just talk to people, talk to surveyors if they want to make a move into it. I'd happily take people out, but there's no one in the southwest. Cows down here.
Oh, mate, I'm even wester than you.
Yeah, I know. Cornwall,
Even the
aren't you?
cows don't go as far west. We've just got sheep.
Brilliant.
No, mate. Well, I massively appreciate you spending some time to have a chat with me. Say with the podcast, I try and talk to people that not necessarily have a significant impact on the industry, but that I think can contribute to anyone that's willing to listen, and that covers a whole range of people, whether it's accomplished surveyors that want to know about the changing home survey standards, buzzing about that, or if it's someone who might even be, a trainee or a graduate surveyor, or someone who's considering changing a career path. There's so many different stages from, you could be trainee or a 35-year seasoned surveyor. There's something for everyone. I try and capture that in the varying podcasts I try and do.
Yeah.
When I first asked you, you were a bit taken back that you wanted to be on a podcast, but generally what you've said is very interesting. I found it interesting, particularly, and I'm sure there'll be others out there that'll be interested, and might even be people that aren't surveyors that they thought this might be for me. And I think a lot of what you said is gonna be very useful, but also a lot of the kind of mechanisms and tools and things that you've talked about that can transfer across into a surveyor. I've got
Sure.
a company that I used to work for. We used to have a massive WhatsApp group, like I said, and it was so useful. Honestly, in my journey becoming a surveyor, I learned as much on there as I did whilst I was studying, because you've just got an absolute variety of people on there from all over the country with their different kind of vernacular builds and interests and
Yeah,
thatched
yeah.
cottages and cobbles. So it's been genuinely a pleasure having you on.
It's been
Um,
lovely being here.
no, good. Thank you for your time. I'll share this onto your SAVA group. No, I don't. I'm not admin. But no, it's been a pleasure, mate. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah, have a good one.
Thank
We'll
you,
catch up,
Rodri.
no
Have a good
doubt.
evening.